So that's how we did it for the eye joist at the bottom, right? And we nailed our wall into this piece of 2x4, right? Does this make sense to everyone before I move on?
Yes.
All you need to do is flip that model to use on the top for your scupper. So your shorter piece will be on the top, the longer piece on the bottom. You put this on, you nail in here, and then you flush it up and nail, right? Okay, any questions? Does this confuse anyone?
1, 2, 3.
Ideal!
So this last week has been the finishing parts of framing. We got the entirety of the structure framed out, and now we're just sheathing over it. So as you can tell right now, as you look down there, that it's all enclosed. And so what we have to do right now is finish nailing all the 8 pennies into it to secure it before we move on to the roof and get some sheathing up there. All right. All right, well, might as well do this again. Yeah, so I had originally gone through and marked everything, but I think my marker was a little dead because I can't see a thing. So I'm just gonna go over it and make sure that all the marks are on point and that we're able to hit the studs in the center. Because the worst things to get at this point are shiners, because as you're nailing from the outside, like there are some that you can tell that are gonna be shiners, but for the most part, you're kind of like guessing where it's at. And so the worst part about this is getting all done with it, taking like an hour or two, shooting like about 100, 200 nails, and then having to go back and reshoot like maybe like 30, 40, 50. There's some times where you have to do a good 50 all over again because of all the shiners that are in there. All right, let's go do this side. Oh, that's what happens. So satisfying of having the tape hold itself all the way down. Right, I would use a level, right? Because you can get that level, and that way you know it's straight. I'll grab mine too. So we started out by making little lines where our centers are, and now we're gonna go along with our levels, and we're gonna level them out and then mark another line. So that way we're gonna be able to know exactly where our center are all the way down. And so like there's a lot of different ways that we could go about it to measure for our centers and make sure that they're on the line where we need to nail. But this one seems like the most quick, or the quickest way for us to get the job done as accurately as we can. continuing right along, we just put down our measurements for all the centers, so we're about to get ready to nail all the sheathing in. So the interesting part about the sheathing is there's actually a code for how we should space our nails, which is on the edges where the sheathing lines up at the top, bottom, side to side, 6 inches of spacing. And that way, that's there so that it's more secure on the edges, but on the insides of it, you'll notice that there's 8 inches of spacing. You'll see these two right here. And so right now we're gonna go through that. We're gonna make sure that all of our nails are spaced correctly. And we're gonna make sure that there's a spacing in between each sheathing. So we're gonna go ahead and get started on that. Just looking for studs right there, because I felt that there was one right here. And they're typically measured out, but this just helps you be sure that there's one right there, so you don't get a shiner, which is where it doesn't nail properly into the stud, and it sticks out through the other end. So I'm just getting my battery for the hacksaw, because the next step is cutting out our windows and our openings. So we're gonna go ahead and take care of that. So that one is a rough opening. Once that gets nailed in, we can clean that up a little bit more, make it flush on the sides. But for now, let's get the other one. All right, 2 down, 1 more to go. So we're just gonna cut the excess out, and this is gonna be a rough opening up until the point where the rest of the sheathing gets nailed in, so that we can come around and clean it up and make it look all nice and straight.
How slow do you have to go when you're cutting a window or a door out?
It depends on the user. Depends on how comfortable they are with the hacksaw or sawzall or circular saw, whatever they're using to cut it. For me, I like to go a little bit slower just to make sure that the rough opening is pretty close to the corner. Granted, the first time you cut this doesn't have to be perfect, because you can always go up along and clean it up. It'll look all nice and straight. But for me, I try to make it pretty good the first time, so that whoever has to come in afterwards and clean it up doesn't have to do too much of a job. So now we're just gonna finish up securing everything else, finish nailing and sheathing, and then afterwards, when all the edges for the windows and the doors are nailed in properly, we can come along and clean it up and make it look nicer than what the rough opening is. As we go along and we're getting our rhythm, sometimes we'll misfire, and sometimes we'll have shiners go through and stick out on the other side. In fact, let me come show you. So like for example, on these ones, they're close, but they're not quite on the dot there. So we just gotta knock them out and then shoot a little bit more to the right next time. So when it comes to shiners, the best way, well the only way in fact, is to just take them out and then make sure that they're hammered or nailed flush into the center. You can't really get away with just hammering them to the side, because at that point, if it's sticking out of the 2x4 like that, it's not really secure. You want it to be secure. So just hammering it to the side is not going to secure it. So that's the reason why we're just going back and redoing all the ones that we had misfired, so that later on when somebody's living in the house, they can trust that their walls are gonna not like just have gaps in them, have airflow get in. We want them to be able to feel like their house is actually a house and it's protected from the outside elements. For hacksaws, they have many different blades. The ones that we have here right now, a lot of them are kind of well used, but we have metal blades, and then we also have wood blades. All of the ones that are in here have been used up and they're kind of a little broken, but we're going to use a metal one, and we're going to cut out a lot of the nails that we're poking through. So that we don't have to worry about those things poking through our sheetrock when we put it in. Just to show you what I'll probably be beginning at. So when you're framing walls, one thing you do have to look out for that we weren't perfect at is making sure that the nails don't poke through at the bottom of the wood. And so that would be a problem when we go to put up sheetrock, because that just wants to poke right through it. So I threw another nail right there to replace this one, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this one out. Like that.
You literally just saw through a nail.
Yep. And then there might be a little bit of excess right there, but at that point you lose the big part that's sticking out, and it just goes in flush with the wood. So that won't be sticking out on the drywall. So we'll just be doing that for the next couple of minutes until Bryson's done with nailing the boards in. So we got another one right here. Even though it's our third build, there's still small little mistakes like shiners and flushness that we still have trouble with. But for the most part, we're making a lot better progress as we're going along, and we're starting to get that muscle memory down. So it doesn't take us as long to fix a mistake. And we're still able to just charge right through it rather than getting down on ourselves that we made a mistake.
How are you doing with that muscle memory? Because muscle flexibility and the confidence that comes from it will always beat a mistake every time, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like one thing that I've noticed just in the last couple of months is like my brain just like starts thinking about the different things we're gonna have to account for automatically, rather than me having to take time and like try to visualize it and make sure I have everything right. At this point, I'm just kind of like going through the flow, I guess. It's really cool. It's hard to explain.